Hello, and welcome to Eavesdropping at the Movies. I'm Mike.
And I'm José.
We saw film stars don't die in Liverpool
Yes.
on different days.
On different days. This is the second time that we have seen a film separately.
So I saw it this morning.
So it's fresh on your mind because I saw it...
Friday. Right?
Yes.
2 days ago.
Yes. See, I already can't remember.
Well, here's one thing that maybe I should be ashamed of, maybe not, that I should admit to. I didn't know it was based on reality.
Oh, I did know that.
I didn't know that Gloria Grahame was a real person.
Oh, didn't you?
No, I didn't know who she was.
Have you never encountered her in films?
Not that I know of. I mean, I'll have a quick look at her credits, but I don't know that I've ever actually seen a film in which she...
Which is very much in the news at the moment. Because the BFI...
Oh, she was in It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes.
Well, I've seen that 100 times.
Exactly. So you know who she is. She's the librarian who ends up as a hooker.
Ah.
Who would have ended up as a hooker had the James Stewart character died. George, I think.
George. Well, I'm going to have to remember his name before we carry on. George Bailey.
George Bailey. So,
Greatest Show on Earth.
And actually...
Bad and Beautiful is obviously what she won Best Supporting Actress for.
Yes.
The Big Heat.
She's wonderful in The Big Heat. Well, she's wonderful in almost everything, actually. That's one of the interesting things about Gloria Grahame is that she was never quite a star, if by star you mean... somebody with box office who gets films built around her.
I think a star is someone whose name goes on the poster.
Well, okay, in that sense, she was a star then. Her name did go in the poster.
Okay.
Though, relatively briefly in the 50s, actually. But she wasn't an above-the-title star. Yeah, she wasn't above... if you think of the 50s, for example, which is where she was at her peak... you think of Elizabeth Taylor, Marilyn Monroe, or Audrey Hepburn. She was never that kind of big star.
Yeah.
Right? She was... she won her Oscar for The Bad and the Beautiful in a supporting part. And she was always kind of like... She was often the lead in a kind of a B-ish film, or, she had a smaller role in a larger film. And what she's best remembered for are the noirs, and when she started, have you not seen In a Lonely Place with Bogart?
No, I've never seen a Bogart film.
Oh my God.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's terrible.
I'm so malnourished.
We must rectify that. In a Lonely Place is a masterpiece. It's really beautiful. So, Humphrey Bogart plays someone who is mistaken for a psychotic killer, but acts like one. They live across the courtyard from each other. And he's a screenwriter, and he writes the screenplay with, he's trying to tell her how he feels about her, but he can't tell her. So, he writes it in his screenplay, and the line is one of those swooningly romantic film noir lines, which goes, I was born when I met you. I died when you left me. For a brief while, I lived while you loved me. You see? Me with my bad memory, I've never forgotten that line. He ends up kind of being innocent, but it's a fascinating film because he ends up being innocent, but actually he almost strangles her. So actually the relationship ends anyway. I.e., he screws up the relationship and shows the potential that even though he wasn't the person, what the police is looking for, he could so easily be. It's really a truly great film. And the interesting thing about her is that she's one of the most memorable presences in film noir and in 1950s cinema without ever having been, that kind of above the title star, And in fact, there's a retrospective at the moment of her work at the British Film Institute in London. So, which is probably timed to the release of this film.
It's a bit of a coincidence, isn't it?
Yeah, it's...
Because a film about her final days has just come out.
Yes.
Spoiler alert, by the way, she dies in this. But not in Liverpool, though.
Yeah. Well, because film stars don't die in Liverpool.
No, they died just after a long flight that they shouldn't have taken back to America.
So what did you think of it?
I didn't think very much of it.
Yes, I didn't think very much of it either.
I'm glad, because I feared you would like it.
I do think that the performances by the two leads
Are very good.
are towering. Like, Annette Bening is absolutely extraordinary because, she really captures the voice and the movements. Like, and actually one of the things about the film is that it moves from scenes or posters or images of the real Gloria Grahame onto a close-up of Annette Bening, and it doesn't jar, right? Like,
no, she looks just like her.
I think she gives an extraordinary performance, and I was also impressed by
Jamie Bell.
Yeah, whom I normally don't like.
Okay.
So, and I think he does extraordinary things here. He's kind of really, superb, and he holds your attention, and he's got kind of like this interesting sexuality that he's never shown before. He comes across as, as sexy, as somebody who's up for it, really. Who's up for sex and who enjoys it, and and who people find that an attractive trait in him. It's one of the things that makes him kind of end up with a film star, basically.
Yeah, he's kind of lithe.
Yes.
And seductive.
Yes, I hated the way that the film is structured.
Well, so let's just briefly say what it's actually about. So it's based on a memoir.
Yes, which I read years ago.
Right, by this guy Peter Turner, which was based on his relationship with Gloria Grahame in 1979 to 1981.
Yes.
He was 26 in 1979, and she would have been in her mid to late 50s.
Yes. The thing is that the film is told in flashbacks, right? But chronologically what happens is the Jamie Bell character is a drama student in London. He ends up in the same house as Gloria Grahame. They develop a relationship. He goes with her to New York and to Hollywood. The whole family meets up. They're introduced to the family of each of them, and so on. But they split up, and so Jamie Bell
that's
character.
in 79.
The Jamie Bell character returns back home. He starts working at the Liverpool Playhouse, and then at the same time, Gloria Grahame is acting in the Glass Menagerie in Lancaster, collapses, and he's the person that she calls to help. And basically, the rest of the film is wrapped around, her dying moments, but also explaining things about why they broke up. How they met, how the relationship developed, the differences between them, and the real reason why they broke up.
Yeah, so you didn't like the way it was structured?
I didn't. I thought it was like really theatrical. I thought it's a piece that could have been done on stage, right? Every time one of the characters goes into another room, he or she goes back into the past or the present or the future, right? So it's almost like a curtain call each time, right? Like I didn't like the way that was all done. But then I thought that the rest of the mise en scène of the film didn't compensate for it. Like, I didn't find the mise en scène expressive. And there were some moments that I thought were just so badly done, right? Like, their whole meeting where, they're meant to be dancing to disco music, right? And
it's cut up and edited.
It's cut up and edited in this very weird way, which kind of focuses on their heads, rather than on their bodies, in which actually the dance demonstrates no joy or connection, or even though Jamie Bell is really into it, and it's fun watching him up to a point, but I thought that was really miserably directed.
Yes, I agree. There's no imagination in it, or not even like a basic understanding really of what the scene should be communicating. As you say, the dancing is about your body.
Yeah.
And you kind of get some long shots, but really it's trying to communicate it through their expressions to each other. But the expressions they're just dancing.
Yes.
You don't dance with your face.
And that's another thing. I thought the film on the one hand, I thought the structure was very theatrical.
Well, when you say the structure, what you're really talking about is the way that it would switch between scenes, because it would literally be a character walking through a door in 1979 and emerging on a beach in 1981.
You could see this.
That stuff, I agree, was a little bit forced, but the structure in terms of actually going between 1981 and 1979 is not a bad...
Okay, so the way that the structure was filmed, let's put it that way, that would be more accurate.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a weird thing of, having that, be theatrical on the one hand, And then the rest of the film looked like a really cheap made-for-TV movie. You know, it was all done in close-ups. You know, it all kind of looked a bit threadbare and inelegant. You know, and I don't mean because it's set in a Liverpool kind of working-class home. I mean actually just, you know, the shots seem threadbare and inelegant. You know, even the scenes in California seem kind of cheap and gauzy and
the sets
filtered.
I think are very good. I think the worlds in which it's set are quite convincing and well realised. I really felt, you know, what a house in Liverpool felt like in 1981.
Yes.
So the setting and the design, the kind of physical design of actually everything all the props and so on, that's great, I think. And
what did you think of Julie Walters playing the mom?
I liked her very much.
I liked her very much, and I was so happy to like her because I hated her so much in Paddington.
I mean, I thought she was kind of not really quite recognisable. I needed the confirmation of the credits at the end that she was Julie Walters.
Oh, no, you could tell from her voice.
Yeah, maybe, but no, I thought she was great. And
you know, I think the only two things recommended, which are, you know, very considerable, I think, is the performances. I mean, I think they're both extraordinary.
Yeah.
You know.
And you know, if you're above, you know, sort of 45 years old, then you will recognise those washing machines in the kitchen in the house in Liverpool.
Is that the best thing you can say about the film?
I think old people will love this. They'll go, I lived in that flat. I know what that's like. I had that wallpaper. They'll say.
Yes.
You know.
I think
I had that hair.
I think it's a pity in a way that you know, here's a film that could have done so much more could have told us so much more about stardom, about you know, Gloria Grahame and about her career and you know what Hollywood did to women over a certain age. You know, one of the things that Gloria Grahame was famous for, like more than famous, notorious for, was having constant plastic surgery. Right, kind of in Alley in his memoir writes about The Bad and the Beautiful that like they had to tell her to stop because the shots didn't match. She would just appear, right, and all of a sudden she would appear with huge lips or so. Kind of, you know, which I remember finding interesting because I didn't realize that plastic surgery, you know, went that far back. Though actually it really goes much further back than that, right? But anyway, so you know this insecurity about, you know, one's image and kind of, you know, maintaining an image and, you know, having to look a certain way and what age does to women in that position. There's so many interesting things that the film could have explored and it just doesn't.
It kind of vaguely does. I like the opening in which she is, you see her preparing to go on stage and she's going through putting up on her makeup and she has a song on and it's this kind of beautifying ritual that she's going through. And with the song, I can't remember what the song is, but there is this thing that I think you're constantly getting from a character that she wants to feel young.
Yes.
And whether that's through a relationship with a 26-year-old or through, or that the film doesn't mention extensive plastic surgery or continuing plastic surgery, but you're always getting the impression she wants to feel young. There's this constant thing of Romeo and Juliet. She wants to play Juliet. And she gets very pissed off with Jeremy Bell's character when he says, "Aren't you a bit old for that?"
Yes. Which, you know, I mean, people on stage have played Juliet, you know, at quite an age, really. For me, kind of, you know, what frustrated me the most was that the aspects of stardom weren't really explored. No. And also, it hints at a really interesting kind of dimension, really, which, you know, is that conversation where the Jamie Bell character reveals to her that he's also slept with men, and she also kind of reveals that, you know, she's not above an interest in women, right? And I thought that was kind of something interesting because, you know, there is like this whole thing of aging divas marrying men who subsequently end up being gay or at least bisexual, right? Yeah, there's so many stars in which, you know, Judy Garland probably being the most famous. I think her last 2 or 3 husbands were all gay. The film touches on all of these things and doesn't explore them. Yeah. The other thing that it touches on is, you know, she was notorious for, I suppose, like Woody Allen, she got married to Nicholas Ray, right, who directed In a Lonely Place and Rebel Without a Cause and so on. And then her next husband was Nicholas Ray's son from a previous marriage, right?
I think her husband after. I think the next husband but one.
Okay.
I think.
All right,
Anyway,
but in a way it doesn't matter. But the rumor, and I've read it stated somewhere, is that actually either Nick Ray caught her sleeping with the son, while they were married, right?
What I read on Wikipedia was that it was supposed to have begun when he was 13.
Right, okay. I didn't know about 13, but quite as a teenager, I heard, yeah.
Right.
So then again, that kind of raised to me an interesting kind of homology between, that being in, the past with the current relationship that she was having, with the Jamie Bell character, who probably was a bit younger than what her stepson would have been at the time that the film was set, right? So kind of all those things are in the background of the story, but they're never brought into play, so kind of I thought that was one of the frustrating elements of the film.
Yeah, there's one line at her sister who's a bit angry or jealous with her.
Yes,
and,
Frances Barber was very good.
She's very good, and just makes mention of, you don't ask her what age it started or something like that, but that's all, and she's quite catty, but the film isn't keen to press that.
Yes. I also liked Vanessa Redgrave as the mother.
Yes, wasn't she lovely?
She's always
just
wonderful.
An absolute joy.
She's always luminous, really. She always brings something. And she kind of plays it quite romantically, really. It's a film that the performances are really quite extraordinary. I loved all of them, actually. But it doesn't really hold up to a lot of scrutiny.
There are elements of the direction. I remember thinking at one point, the word deft came into my mind. The direction was quite deft at one point. I can't remember. I think it would have been the point where you see the argument that ends up splitting up the two of them, and then you see it again with the knowledge now that Gloria's been out getting diagnosed with cancer. So the first time you see it is from Jamie Bell's perspective.
Yes.
And he's just frustrated that she's lying to him and hiding something and all that. Second time you see it is with this knowledge, and it's shown a second time. And I thought, this is quite good. This is quite good. Seeing this the second time.
I don't know if that's a question of direction. I think.
Well, no, there were elements of the direction.
Okay.
But it's also the way the story's told at that point. I agree. But there are elements to the direction that I think are kind of show some sort of creativity ability. But it's like, so we were looking at Paul McGuigan, who's the director, his previous films, and the only one I can be sure that I've seen is Gangster Number 1. And basically what I remember about that is I didn't like it very much, and it's kind of stylish, but not enough. And actually, the same kind of thing as this. Basically, it's the performances that carry that film.
Yes.
The whole way.
I can't tell because I've obviously seen, I love Luke Cage and so on, but I can't distinguish which episodes he might have directed from, which ones he didn't. And of course, the role of directing on television is kind of subsumed by the showrunner, so it's kind of like a different thing, really quite altogether. So it's hard to attribute credit and.
As a director on TV, if people can tell who you are, you've probably actually done your job wrong.
Right.
I think that's generally. There was like an episode of CSI or something when Quentin Tarantino directed it, and it was a big thing. Like Quentin Tarantino did this, but normally you're just there to get what's written down onto the screen.
Yes.
I think it's more perfunctory.
The thing is, as I said, she's such a glorious and vibrant presence that, I think what people should do really is go see one of the great classic Gloria Grahame films. And, she's got some roles that just, stay in your mind. Primarily In a Lonely Place and The Big Heat and Human Desire. And also she was famously the girl who can't say no in the original film of Oklahoma. She's quite wonderful doing that as well. I would just recommend, instead of seeing this, go see one of her original kind of, films. Get it out on DVD. They're playing at the moment, particularly In a Lonely Place.
I'll tell you the main problem I have with it. It's a love story, and at no point did I feel it. I should have been weeping at points, and in fact I was just faintly bored. There were points, actually, there are moments where it's so well constructed as to get... there are points where it is actually well put together and well directed, and there's nothing really wrong with it. And the actors are putting in good performances. And, you know, the points where it's kind of heading towards the climax, where, like, they're doing Romeo and Juliet on stage and things like this. And I'm going, why aren't I feeling something?
Yes.
Because there's nothing really wrong, but there's no feeling here.
Yes.
I don't know what it is. It just lacks...
I don't know. I thought it lacked depth.
It lacks substance and significance. It doesn't.
That's
it
right.
makes nothing feel meaningful.
Okay, I was going to say it lacks depth and texture, but substance and significance is better. So it's one of those films that I think it's really a trifle kind of masquerading, you know, as an art house film.
I don't like that
of substance and significance.
Yeah.
It's quite cheap looking. I don't know another way of putting it. You know,
inexpensive.
Yes. Okay, but I really mean cheap in the sense that it is inexpensive, and also it's kind of threadbare. You know, that you think, you know, had they had more of a budget, you know, a whole bunch of the sequences would have looked different and would have looked better. You know, I was thinking particularly all of the California scenes in Malibu and whatever. You know, it looked kind of cheap. It looked like the kinds of photographs I take.
The stuff in the car was very, very cheap.
I mean, I thought that this is one of those things where actually you do feel that the budget affected the quality, because there are just scenes that feel needlessly bare. So, for example, all the scenes, you know, in New York in the apartment, there's never like more than one person on the street, or, you know, it's always filmed from inside a lobby where, you know, you have like two people outside, or, right? You know, I think it looks cheap.
Let's see if we can find a budget for it. Budget's not applicable. No.
Well, I don't need to look at a budget to tell you it looks cheap. So, you know.
Well, you don't know, but maybe it costs 300 grand, maybe it costs 300 million. And
well,
it all went on.
If it cost 300 million, Annette Bening got 299. Which I'd be surprised.
I'll tell you something else as well. I saw it at the Electric. I don't know about you.
I saw it at the Electric, yeah.
Did you see it in the upstairs room?
Yes.
I prefer the upstairs room, I've realised, to the downstairs one, because the downstairs room, the Electric, is, they try and make it feel like an actual cinema.
Yes.
But it's not big enough. The screen's too far away, so it looks like a postage stamp. Whereas the upstairs one, it's about 8 rows, and the screen's right in front of you, and you could fill it with your mates. It's like it's quite intimate in there, and actually it feels like a real art cinema upstairs. I prefer that one.
Yes.
And because I have this problem with the Electric, I want to be able to say nice things about the Electric, because it's a local Birmingham cinema. I want to be able to support it. It's independent, and so often I can't.
Is it independent?
I don't. It's not part of a chain.
Well, if it's independent, I don't understand their programming. You know, because basically they're programming everything that you can see at Cineworld. I mean, all of the films playing at the Electric, the day I saw it, had been playing at Cineworld the week before. They're playing the Poirot film. They were playing this one, Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool, which had played at Cineworld the week before, and I forget what the third one is.
I don't remember.
But they were all playing at Cineworld. So actually,
Murder on the Orient Express, maybe.
Well, Murder on the Orient Express, definitely.
I'll have a quick look at their program. Today was Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool, Paddington, Murder on the Orient Express, and Suburbicon, which we must see.
Yeah, Paddington was the other one. So they were showing Paddington, Murder on the Orient Express, and Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool. It's exactly the programming of Cineworld, except Cineworld shows other stuff as well.
Well, so they're doing Call Me by Your Name. So in the upcoming week, for instance, Call Me by Your Name, Sorcerer, A Disaster Artist in the Room, Old Boy, Gremlins, plus a Q&A with I don't know who. Blade Runner. They're still showing Blade Runner. Moonlight. So they show kind of, you know, what else they got? Beauty and the Beast, Dunkirk, It's a Wonderful Life, Baby Driver. So they've got a bunch of stuff kind of coming back. Maybe that's the Christmas season. I don't know if they do that regularly.
I don't think they do it regularly. Well, you know, anyway, good for them, because, you know, that what you just said is the kind of programming I'd like to see at the Electric.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, you know, why you support it. But the mainstay of their programming, to me, you know, from what I can see, and I walk by it every day, is you know, they rely on kind of like these big films that show at Cineworld, you know, to an exorbitant extent, and that's what you see pictured outside in their posters, and I don't like that.
And like I say, what my problem is that I would like to be able to say some really positive things and they end up not being able to because they don't think the screen is good enough. Basically, yeah.
Well,
I think, and it's over. It was £9.50 for the ticket today.
I know,
which is a lot. On top of that is a British film, which I want to be able to say good things about because of British industry, and it's not good.
Well, the not good or the good, I don't mind because, you take your chances, right? And I'm happy that they're showing it. I mean, I think kind of what bothers me is, when they're showing films that you could see at Cineworld, cheaper on a much better screen and sound system and everything than you do there. I mean, that I don't get, right? If you're just going to go see the standard Hollywood blockbuster, then why the fuck see it at the Electric?
Yeah, exactly.
So kind of that annoys me about the programming. But, it is a cinema that I very much want to support, actually. And, kind of, because actually we're so starved now for good programming. And to be fair, where it either happens there or at the Mockingjay Cinema, or rarely at the Midlands Arts Centre. So, which we should go to the Mockingjay Cinema.
The Gremlins Q&A is Zach Galligan, who's the star. Your main man in Gremlins.
Well, we should go.
No, it's sold out.
Oh.
And it's on a Thursday night, so I can't. But that's still quite good. Mind you, Gremlins 2 is better. Gremlins 2 is way better. In fact, it's one of the best. I've changed my mind. It goes Gremlins 2... Goes Gremlins 2, then The Truman Show, then Jackie Brown. Those are the best 3 films of 1990s.
Right. Okay, well, good. Let's end it here.